Hello and welcome to episode 274 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We got a great show lined up for you. You know, we're approaching week 11. Snoog and I started to put together our week 11 rankings for the Patreon, trying to get you guys set up to absolutely smash with just 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what kind of league you play in, you know, before the playoffs. This is my favorite time of year, Snoog. You know, we're trying to get ourselves ramped up. This is where rebuilding, you really cash in on those trades. And when you're talking about going all in, now's the time where it just feels good. You know, you're getting yourself set up to absolutely dominate.
Yeah, this is the time that kind of make or breaks your dynasty rosters, in my opinion. Because for rebuilders, you're taking all the leverage that you have if you have any sort of contending pieces left on your team. You're leveraging that towards the contenders and getting more than what they're actually worth. I've done that countless of times, so make sure you're doing that as well. And then if you're a contender, make sure you're loading up on depth, QB3s, tight end 2s and 3s, 4 to 5 startable running backs, 4 to 5 startable wide receivers. Like, these are the things that you got to be doing and really building out this week and next week before the playoffs come. Most leagues do week 15, 16, 17. So make sure you're on top of that stuff as well. But I'm excited. This is the time of the year. This is when you're fighting for the 1 seed. You're fighting for the buys, for the 1 and 2 seeds, for those that are doing 16 or 17 playoffs. So it's fun. I mean, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where my eyes start to get peeled, and I wake up. This is time. This is time for the bread-winning season, so I'm excited for this one.
It feels good, right? I mean, this is that time. Scarface put it in there. He said money time, and that's what it is. You know, we've gotten to that point in the season where we have put ourselves into position to dominate. You know, a lot of this show tonight, guys, we're going to try to do a lot of content, but we are taking super chats on trades and rosters. You guys just go ahead and jump them in there. We will go over your entire roster. We will go over whatever trade you want. We just got a lot to cover, a lot of different guys to talk about. Snoog, when we're talking about, you know, winning in the playoffs, to me, the most important position right now is quarterback. Quarterback is very difficult to navigate. You know, you got Jalen, you got Lamar, you got Josh and Burrow, and then it's like, all right, who else is that guy that's going to be putting me over the top? We have a lot of guys, you know, in that area from 7 to 15 and 16. How close do you look at rosters? How close do you look at matchups? And a lot of people right now, I don't think, are paying attention to this massive week 14 bye, Snoog. We got Stroud and the Texans on bye. We got the Ravens on bye with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. We have the Commanders on bye with Jaden Daniels. You know, there's 6 teams on bye in week 14. And it's like, this is why playoffs don't start to week 15. But man, that week 14 is going to be very important. If you're a fringe playoff team, you might want to consider trading one of those guys now. And I know that sounds crazy. If you are a smash contender, you want to go out there and say, you know what, dude, you're gonna like need a quarterback to start that week. Trade me Lamar Jackson. Trade me Jaden Daniels. Go after those guys, because the more you play Dynasty, the more you realize strategy is so important, right? Just having a good frame of mind and knowing things that other people don't puts you so far ahead.
Yep. Absolutely. I think I love that you highlighted the bye weeks thing, because Jalen Hurts already had his bye week. Kyler Murray's bye week's this week. Brock Purdy already had his bye week. Like, these are quarterbacks and guys that have already had their bye weeks. So you have them basically for the rest of the season, expected to play every game, barring any injuries. But that's valuable, because, like, if you're fighting for that week 14 win to squeeze into the playoffs and you have Lamar Jackson and you need him to play, you might have to sacrifice it and take a little bit of an L and go get Jalen Hurts for Lamar Jackson, or go get, I don't like going back more, but maybe get get like a Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and just make a slightly less of a swap. But like, these are the things that you should be preparing for ahead of the game. Like, go get a backup quarterback that's very good that you could play instead of Lamar if you have to that week. Or these are things that you're always supposed to have in play and plan going into the playoffs. Don't go into it like you are right now with just nothing. Like, if you're treating it like it's just the beginning of the season, like we always said, there's the teams that start off 5-0. There's the teams that start off 6-1. I can't even count on my fingers how many times I saw that this year with these most fraudulent teams I've ever seen in my life. the teams with Jaden Reed and all these guys that were going crazy with them, Sam Darnold, Jaden Reed. The good teams weren't really establishing themselves yet until mid-season, and it takes some time sometimes. So when you got to start buying into injury discounts, if you have a team that's a locked 1 to 2 seed, you can get discounts with like DK Metcalfs, T Higgins, Mike Evans, even Tyreek Hills, like those type of guys. You can load up on Christian McCaffrey's. Like, take the risk on these guys now, because those guys have the potential to lock yourself in a championship, like hands down. So that's what I'm doing in my leagues right now, making sure I have depth, buying on some of these league winners. Thread is going out tomorrow on who the 10 guys are that I'm actively buying every league, both dynasty and redraft. And basically, it's just guys like the Travis Kelce's, the Christian McCaffrey's that are undervalued because of age, because of injury, that are going to absolutely blow off the doors with production and bring you right to a championship. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and I think now's that time you really just make that separation, that time where you look at your quarterbacks, like we've been talking a lot lately of, a guy that might be struggling like a CJ Stroud, or a guy who gets Nico back this week, and I think he's going to be fantastic. But some of these guys like a Patrick Mahomes, who we know is fantastic, but he hasn't been putting up elite level numbers, trying to take those guys and package together to get the guys that are putting up the points, because we know there's 5 or 6 guys that are really going to take you up over the top. You got to start looking at who those teams are playing. You got to look at those matchups. And I think, guys like Brock Purdy are really sticking out to me. I think Brock Purdy is one of my biggest buys right now, because he's got a nice schedule the rest of the way. And he's someone that's still not costing anywhere near where he should. I gave up Dak in a second for Purdy yesterday. I'm all in on that. That's one where
I love that
you're getting younger and you're getting better, because Dak was starting to show a little bit of a decline there a little bit. I think you get an opportunity to go and you buy low on some of these guys. Justin Herbert, still, people have not caught up that he's had 3 straight back-to-back weeks where he's looked fantastic. This week he gets the Bengals, who are giving up the 5th most fantasy points per game to the quarterback. So, there's a lot of real guys to go out there and kick the tires on.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that, because I don't typically like to look too much and overthink too much in a playoff schedule for a lot of guys, especially superstars. But like, if you look at Kyler Murray's playoff schedule, like, he's someone that's always benefited off easy matchups. Like, he dominates easy matchups. He has the Patriots, the Panthers, and the Rams. The Rams, who he just dropped 34 points on earlier this year. I think there's a world where Kyler Murray is a top 3 quarterback when it matters. And I'm very happy that that's the matchup case, because I have him in so many dynasty leagues. I'm almost trying to. I have a lot of Dak that I've gotten off a couple for Herbert and Brock Purdy. I'm almost tempted to just do like a Dak and a first for Kyler and a second type swap and see if I can get that done, just to go after a guy like Kyler with an easy matchup with a team that has clearly been better as the season's gone on. Like, Marv's starting to turn up. Marv's going to be a touchdown magnet. McBride's a volume hog underneath. Like, the offense is working. It's moving. It's young. It's new, but it's getting into a rhythm. And I think Kyler Murray could blow the doors off fantasy football and win you your leagues like easily, and have that Lamar, that Josh Allen type rushing upside.
He's got a top 10 strength of schedule the rest of the season. And when I say top 10, I mean not toughest, but easiest. Number 1, and you're going to love this, is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is someone that if you can find, and we talked about it last week, if you can find a team that is not in the playoffs with Jalen Hurts, you go buy them. The second best schedule the rest of the way is Baker Mayfield. 3rd is Bo Nix, and 4th is Will Levis. Let's be honest, you're not picking up Will Levis. I think Bo Nix is a guy that is if he's my QB2, I don't feel great about it, but I'm not.
Wow.
I don't mind it, but I am definitely going out there and I'm buying Baker, because I think Baker and Mike Evans are going to win you leagues when it comes down the stretch. They are the guys that I am looking at, and I'm just like, they are way too cheap. And you look at what they have. Week 15 is the Chargers, but week 16 is Dallas. Week 17 is Carolina. Those are the type of matchups that you want, where you're going to absolutely dominate. You look at the Eagles, week 16, Washington, week 17, Dallas. those are 230 burgers right there.
If you
Like,
look at
he is locked and
the
loaded.
Eagles' rest of season schedule,
It's cake.
Washington, Rams, Ravens, Panthers, Steelers is a tough one, but like when you have a really good offense, it honestly doesn't matter as much. And then Commanders, Dallas, Giants again. That's like that's made in a lab heaven type schedule,
Yeah.
and that goes for Jalen Hurts, Saquon, AJB, and Devontae Smith. So if you're caught holding the bag on a lot of those guys like I am, you should be licking your chops because it's going to get real good for that offense. And a team that started off a little bit slow, but they've been on fire the past few weeks, beating the Bengals, beating the Jaguars, beating the Cowboys. They're on a streak right now. Jalen Hurts has had 30 plus in all three of those games. I don't expect him to slow down. He's actually a dark horse candidate to be QB1 rest of the season. From week 11 through week 17, I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Hurts scores the most fantasy points.
Yeah, and then the other guys, I mean, you look at strength of schedules and the toughest teams. Jordan Love and Caleb Williams have the two toughest schedules. You're not playing Caleb Williams once you get to the playoffs. Jordan Love, that's a little bit concerning, but you're looking at New Orleans and Minnesota. They're winnable games. I think Jordan Love's a guy that he's going to go out there and throw 2 touchdowns and a pick in every single one of those. It's not a big deal. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels have very tough schedules down the stretch, but they're the type of quarterbacks that they just put up points. It's not going to matter what you're looking at. It's not going to matter those kind of moves. What do you say to the guys that are like, all right, you're like, I lost Dak. I can't afford. I don't have the draft capital. I don't have the bench. I don't have the guys to go up and buy a Joe Burrow and buy a Jalen Hurts. Where do you go from there? We talked about it a little bit last week, but I think Jared Goff is coming up off back-to-back poor games. But Jared Goff on the season, as well as the last 2 years, has been top 12. You look at Tua Tagovailoa. A lot of people are a little worried, obviously about the concussions, but he's incredibly cheap. I'm trying to scale up to Drake May and Brock Purdy. Those are the two guys that in my mind I'm trying to buy the most shares of because I think they're the most undervalued. Today I got an offer of Cousins and Mooney for Dak Prescott. And I think that's fair. I think that's kind of what you're looking at because you're like we talked about. If you're all in, and we did an entire show on that, you're going to have to overpay. It's just what's going to have to happen. And a lot of you guys have been messaging the super chats are down right now. So we will make sure that is rectified on Friday. Snoog and I are going to be doing a start sit show for you guys because this week is so important. We're going to come at you guys multiple times on YouTube to try to make sure we get things out. I appreciate you guys letting us know that super chats are down. So when you're making those kind of moves, I mean, you have Dak. I know you have him in multiple areas because you and I were very big on Dak and Kyler in the offseason. Drake May and Purdy for me. How are you going about making moves? I mean, what are some of the offers that you're trying to throw out there right now?
I'm going after Justin Herbert like crazy right now. 3 straight 20-plus point games. The offensive volume in the passing game is starting to really increase. They're starting to let him do his thing. They're starting to use him more as a runner, design runs. He's starting to use his legs more. He's looking great as a runner. He's going to be a guy that has a really, really high floor of like 250 passing yards, a touchdown or 2 through the air. And if he can get you that 25 to 35 rushing yards a game, and he's a big guy, he's 6'6", like big frame. When they get down to that goal line area or in that red zone, like I expect to see more Justin Herbert rushing touchdowns. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen this from him before. He's always been kind of on that like Joe Burrow-ish, like fringe, like a couple 100 yards rushing, maybe 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. So he offers a little bit there as well, but in the 6-point passing formats as well, you're just getting a rock solid low end QB1 with upside. Like you're getting your 20 to 22 fantasy points a week.
Yeah,
exactly.
You brought up
what
Burrow.
I want from him.
There was a time where you could 2 years ago, you could get Herbert plus for Burrow. And then there was a time where you could get Burrow plus for Herbert.
And now
you can get Herbert plus. If you get a late first in Herbert for Burrow, you taking it?
Yeah.
The way Burrow's been playing, you think I feel like that's the gap though. I think a second I would keep Joe Burrow right now because Joe Burrow's defense is so bad. He is just lined up to win you leagues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just lined up to throw the ball like 60 times a game.
Yeah, like he is going out there and he's doing
And he
and you
doesn't
look
even
at
have T. Wait till he gets T back. It's just gonna be so much easier and better. Like,
yeah,
he has literally the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL. Like, I still stand on that.
yeah.
When
I mean,
healthy, close with
he's
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I low key think I'd take them, but
you
it's
got to take with
definitely
a grain of salt that there's a good percentage of his points have come against the Ravens. You know what I mean? Like he's got 9 touchdown passes against the Ravens in 2 games. That's
he's
insane.
playing
That's
outstanding.
but he let 9 touchdowns in the last 2 games. You throw in the Philadelphia game was a little bit tougher. 2 touchdowns against Cleveland. Like he has put up fantastic numbers. I'm baffled at what Joe Burrow has done, and it's been fantastic. The other guys that we're looking at buying there, if you are in that position, would you pay a guy that I'm kind of looking into right now is you got to start looking into potentially bargain buying, guys that are going to be a second round pick, maybe a guy that if you have a trade deadline, Snoog, where you're like, I'm sitting here with a mid to late 25 second, I'm going to buy Geno, I'm going to buy Stafford, I'm going to buy Rodgers, because you need somebody there. Is there any, Rodgers' schedule is juicy. He's got Jacksonville in week 15. He's got the Rams in week 16. Then Buffalo's pretty tough in week 17. But, he did fairly well against them the first time with 2 touchdowns and 294 yards. So, Rodgers, a lot of people find that he's washed, but man, 26 second, late 25 second. If you have a trade deadline, you go buy a guy like that.
Good move. And Matt Stafford, another guy. He had, since Puka and Cup have both been back, 33, 20-something, 2 really good games. And then last game against Miami was a shit show for both teams.
Yeah.
Just, I've never seen anything like it. Just turnovers after turnovers. Miami's defense has been really good against quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective, is what I've heard and seen. So it doesn't worry me too much. Stafford still threw for like 250, 60 plus yards.
It's a lock. It's the touchdowns with him. He's going to throw for 250 every week.
Yeah, he's going to get the yards every week. It's just if the touchdowns fall his way. And if they do, he's dropping 25. It's that easy. We saw his ceiling when he was the MVP. Like, he literally dropped 5,000 yards and like 36 touchdowns or 40 touchdowns or something like that. If he gets hot and the Rams offense gets hot, he's going to be very good for what you can get him for. A 26 second, a late 25 second. Grab him, pair him up with on your bench as your QB3, 6-point passing league, and just ride with it. That's what I'm doing in literally every league. Is I'm leaving with Matt Stafford.
As crazy as it sounds, I think Russell Wilson's actually in that range.
Another one,
now.
He's another good one.
He's coming off in 4-point passing. He's coming off 25, 13, 19. He gets Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore again. In the next 6 weeks, he faces 5 bottom 10 pass defenses. So he could be a fringe guy that gets you to the playoffs right now. He's a guy where you lost Dak, you give up Russell Wilson, you give up Dak and you get Russell Wilson and an early second or a late first. And I think that it insulates you and it gives you an opportunity to get a Russell Wilson who, I don't love Russell Wilson, but man, that is a juicy schedule. Kirk Cousins is another guy. He's going to cost you a late first, but the playoffs, he gets the Raiders, the Giants, and the Commanders. That is a really nice schedule there. And with the quarterbacks, I pay a lot more attention to the schedule when we look at those kind of things. The other teams, like the other positions, running back's huge, but again, the number 1 running back schedule rest of season is Saquon Barkley. Number 2, Josh Jacobs. Number 3, Bucky Irving. So I
like that. Josh Jacobs is a guy that he's been great. Just touchdowns haven't been falling his way. He's another guy that the volume's there. He's getting, like 80 to 100 rushing yards a game, but he's like Jonathan Taylor, right? If he doesn't score, then he's not going to get you anything valuable, which stinks because Jacobs is a decently good receiving back in a high-powered offense. I really wanted to see 4 to 5 catches a game, maybe 4 in that 4 range, but it's just not coming there. So that's lack of value there for him, but he's a guy I own in a decent amount of spots.
You want to get so many guys that the running back is playing against Carolina. Carolina's given up insane rushing totals. Week 16, it's James Conner. Week 17, it's an interesting one. And I get this question a lot in the Patreon of, are you buying Rashad White? Are you buying Bucky Irving? And my answer for right now is yes, No, I'm buying both because I think this offense is fun. I think they're going to put up plenty of points. And the schedule is absolutely ripe the rest of the way. Dallas in 15,
really is.
Carolina. Or I'm sorry, Dallas in 16, Carolina in 17. They play Carolina twice in the next 6 weeks. And then they got Las Vegas in there. They have 5 top 10 defenses they're going to face. And then the Chargers mix there in the middle. So, I mean, if I could get Bucky Irving, if I could get Rashad White for a second plus, your days of paying a first, I don't think are necessary. But if you could pay a second plus, throw in a someone that's going to just be a depth piece, I'm all for that. Your boy, Austin Eckler, has a great schedule. I'm low-key stashing him everywhere because Brian Robinson just has been beat up. But week 15 is the Saints. That's another juicy matchup. You really got to take a look at these things where if you have a smash contender like you and I do, I mean, I have one team where I have Saquon, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson. You're like, okay, set it and forget it. But some of these other teams, you have to be like, now I got to think a little bit. Like, who am I going to go out there and play in the playoffs? What team is that I'm looking for? What's the guy that's going to put up those points? And I think that really makes a difference because, Josh Jacobs in week 16, 15, 16, and 17, Commanders, bottom 5, Green Bay, and then, I'm sorry, not Green Bay. He plays Washington, then he plays against Carolina, so he's going to have an opportunity to put up some monster numbers. So Josh Jacobs is a nice little buy here down the stretch. James Conner has an absolutely fantastic schedule with Carolina in week 16, Rams in week 17. So, I mean, you can still buy James Conner cheap. You can still buy some of these guys and get yourself into situations to kind of go through here. As we said that, our boy Super Hot from the Discord, again, the Patreon Discord has been blowing up. I was on a date tonight, Snoog. Went on the date at 5 o'clock. I jumped on the podcast here with you at 9:30. 97 DMs. I'm going to be up all night, but that's fine.
It's been absolutely crazy.
I'm here to help you guys smash after I did. But we're going here. Josh Jacobs plus what for A-Chain? Who you going with here? What kind of value?
Give me A-Chain. I don't even want to do a trade like that. A-Chain's officially my dynasty RB3 behind Gibbs and Bijan, and
we're going to argue that one out. I can't move Saquon down.
With Tua, he is going to be an absolute. I honestly can see why you would have Saquon over him, just because, like, in a nutshell, like, running back position's fragile as is.
Yeah,
can't really predict that much longevity from running backs, but like A-Chain is literally like playing receiver for the Dolphins and scoring a ton of touchdowns and getting so much opportunity. I just think he's going to have. I haven't looked too much into their matchups, but I know they play like Houston, San Fran, just so many of these high scoring defense or high scoring potential shootout games where the Texans have a great run defense, but A-Chain's going to get 8 receptions. Like that's the difference.
And that's the thing. He's matchup proof. Like in the games with this was the first week, this past week, where he did not have 8 targets and did not have a rushing or receiving touchdown. Like every game he's played, he's gone over 130 rushing and receiving total yards.
Yep.
He's gone over 8 targets. He's gone over 5 receptions, and he scored a touchdown. This was the first one. And that maybe this week was 5 receptions, 0 touchdowns, 52 total yards. A lot of people acted like that was a big time loss, but he gets the Raiders this week. He gets, the Patriots, the Packers, the Jets, San Fran, Cleveland. There's a lot of good matchups coming here. Snoog put this up here. Our Patreon is www.patreon.com/smashaccept. We've been talking about this a lot, buddy. We've been putting in all the hours, but right now, $5 gets you the next 4 weeks. It's $5 a month. That's $1.25 a week to make sure you are getting advice on your roster. Guys are just sending in here, Dad, here's my roster. Who am I sitting this week? And one guy today, he had we were looking in here and he was like, Brian Thomas Jr. was in his lineup. I was like, you got Nuke on your bench. I think Nuke's going to go off. Let's plug him in there. and we're like, let's start making some roster adjustments. Let's get those things in there. So many guys were asking about that Nico Collins replacement. I told him it's John Mechie. They want some money. Mark Fisher, he's in there. He asked a question. Dynasty contender, 25 late second, and Bateman for Aaron Jones and Dowdle. That's a smash. Like,
yeah,
even
that's a smash.
Even just for Jones, that's a smash. Aaron Jones is a guy that I love buying right now because he is just absolutely cheap. He gets Seattle, Green Bay. He's got a nice little schedule here the rest of the way. And I think rather than buy heavy, I'm really more and more every single year. This year, I'm buying Jones. I'm buying Connor. I'm buying those kind of guys to get me over the top because I don't feel like paying up for Breece Hall because Breece Hall might not score more points than Aaron Jones. I don't like paying up for Jonathan
Taylor.
Taylor.
Say it, but it's true. Like
I don't like paying up for Jonathan Taylor because James Conner could score more points than him.
Exactly.
You just got to take the cheapest option. That's what we've really had our bread and butter all year, Snoog, is you bought Kamara cheap, you bought Mixon cheap, you bought Henry cheap. They're going to win you titles. Now go buy Jones and Connor and Eckler cheap and win it all.
It's insane how like all those for receipt purposes, just you and I tweets and stuff all off season, the shows we've done, the tweets we've done, the threads we've done, a very popular group of guys on those tweets every time was Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon. It was that veteran value. You were getting James Conner as well as another name to throw in there. And 3 of them are averaging 20 plus points per game. And then if you look to the younger running backs that we were buying in like crazy, it was Achane, it was Kenneth Walker, it was some of these guys. It was James Cook for you. I hated James Cook. I wasn't buying him anywhere, but I ate that take. I was wrong on that. But these are the things we were doing, and mastering the running back position. It's always a thing that I try to take pride in and really try to do, is because you get those seasons where the running backs are carrying the load and they're the way, and you get these receiving running backs that are really getting 3 to 4 to 5 passes down, like Kamara, like Bijan a game. I knew it. I had a tweet from this earlier this offseason. I said, this is the year we could get like 8 or 10 300 plus point scoring running backs, and it's literally pacing out to be like that. So it just felt good. It felt like that type of year. There was a ton of running back value. Everyone was so big on the running back market sucking. The position was terrible. Fade running backs, go for wideouts. Felt too easy, especially when you were doing 0 running back, right? Like you're getting Kamara in round 5, Kenneth Walker in round 4, Achane in round 3. Easy money in redraft. It's just, people make it too easy. Joe Mixon was a 6th rounder, 5th rounder. Like, it was just too easy. It was set up nice. It was a layup. I am absolutely dominating like 90% of my leagues because I just took advantage of Kamara, Mixon, Henry, Achane, Gibbs, a lot of these running back slight discounts. Even if it was Gibbs, Bijan, you were still getting 6 or 7 wide receivers taking over them off the board. So these are the things that you just got to keep an eye on. Positional advantages. Running back is a positional advantage this year. I don't know if it's obviously because injuries with the quarterbacks and injuries with the wideouts, but I think the 2 high safeties have opened up a lot of checkdowns, a lot of underneath stuff for the running backs, and a lot of power O's, running backs off, running the ball off tackle between the tackles, getting 20 touches a game. Like, it's just the way the league is right now. So I'm happy that we took advantage of that. And if you were listening to the show, following us in the Discord, you would have been doing the same thing, and you'd be probably in first place or second place at the least in your league.
There's a lot of guys right now that are asking me, they're sending me DMs. They're like, I have a second. Would you buy this running back? So we're getting a little smash or pass. We're saying it's the 205. Okay.
Yep.
It's a mid-second. Tyrone Tracy.
That's a gamble. If I'm feeling risky, Tracy.
I'm smashing it. Drew Lock is going to take over, and I think they're going to air it out. I think Drew Lock is going to make Malik Neighbors play some good football down the stretch. I am trying to buy Malik Neighbors. I think Lock's going to open up the offense. Yeah, he's going to have turnovers. There's going to be problems, but Daniel Jones was just holding everything back. The real thing is, I think they don't go with the running back next year, and he's been flashy. So, I mean, I would be okay in that area. Najee Harris.
I take Najee.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been really good of late. You know, you look at what he has done. He had before this week, he had 3 straight games over 100. He has 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Since Russell Wilson has taken over, he's starting to get involved in the passing game a little bit more, you know, or actually a lot more in the running game. He's just been more of in that red zone threat. I think he's going to have a good strong finish. I like that. Let's go Tony Pollard.
I take Tony. He's been playing good.
He's got a tough stretch down the way. This is a guy that worries me a little bit next. J.K. Dobbins. If you look at it this past week, you know, him and Gus split pretty evenly. And I'm worried about this playoff schedule because it's KC, Tampa Bay, Denver. That's tough.
Yeah,
that's really tough.
He's really talented in a good situation. I don't think he's. I don't think he's not replaceable. Like if the Chargers are this run heavy, comes time to make a draft pick in the second, third round, and Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or one of these superstars on the board, they can get him cheap on a rookie contract. Yeah. They're gonna do it. They're gonna
week
do it.
Week 8, you and I were talking about this. Jonathan Brooks comes off the PUP list. You know, he's off of IR. And I was buying Chuba Hubbard for 26 late seconds everywhere. Just saying, you know what? He got the contract. Let's go in there. What has he done the last 2 weeks? Top 8 running back finishes. 20.2, 22.9. He's gone out this past week. 28 carries, 153 and a touchdown. The week before that, 15 for 72 and 2 touchdowns. They're on the bye here. Are you going to smash or pass Chuba Hubbard or the 212 right now?
I'm smashing Chuba.
See, everyone's on the Brooks.
I'm thinking Chuba over all these guys you just named. Over the 205.
But people are still panicking. They thinking Jonathan Brooks is just coming in and taking over. It's just
Jonathan Brooks isn't even as good as Chuba. Chuba's literally better.
Chuba's been so good.
Jonathan Brooks was the most overrated player, and I'm so mad he got that good of draft capital because I wasn't that high on him as a prospect. But like anytime a running back that can catch the ball gets that good of draft capital, it's kind of like, I mean, he's going to get opportunity and probably gain value. So it's good process. But I wish it was just like Blake Corum or someone else that got that draft capital that was better, like a Bucky Irving or something.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we're talking about. Carlos Romano,
great guy in the Discord. Or Aaron Jones there. Yeah, I'd probably lean. Who would you take over? I'd probably take Connor with that playoff schedule.
I'm taking Connor over Jones right now for sure. Clint said, "Miss it was the content. Glad to see you guys back. I love you guys on YouTube because you don't see our daily Twitter posts that we put out there. We're putting out threads to help you guys smash, but you guys are super involved when it comes to live streams and we do this kind of stuff." Benny's right. He said Trey Benson's taking over next year. I think James Conner's not going anywhere, but Trey Benson has shown flashes, Snoog, where he was reluctant to hit the hole. Now he's smashing in there. He's at over 5.8 yards per carry. He's looked like the part of what we thought he could be. And I think if Connor goes down, he's a league winner. So that's a great comment in there. Other guy that I'm really interested to get your take on, that I saw a guy in the Discord said he paid a 26 first for, and I yelled at him.
It's Chase Brown.
It's Chase Brown. It's Chase Brown. He paid a 26 first, and I said, don't do it. Just don't do it.
I want to do it first.
He's been really good. You look at the last 2 weeks, 80 rushing yards, 87 rushing yards, back-to-back weeks. He's caught 5 and 9 passes. He's looked really good. Zach Moss is on IR.
He's caught 9 He caught 9 passes in a game.
He caught 9 passes on 11 targets last week for 52 yards. And against Baltimore, though, because they're in that shootout. You look at the rest of the schedule. He's got the Chargers. Then he's on bye. I think this Chargers-Bengals game is going to be a shootout and fun. He's got Pittsburgh, Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland. That's a pretty tough schedule, but I think it's going to favor him when we're talking about if he's that involved in the passing game. I would not pay a first. I would not pay an early second. If I had to pay a mid-second, I would, but I don't want to. It just doesn't feel right.
That offense is too good to me where it's like, imagine they added a Quinshon Judkins, a Caleb Johnson, one of these type of Travion Henderson type of guys in that early day 2 range. but they also need so much on defense that it's almost like if Chase Brown's playing fine and he's good, then why not just ride him out on his rookie contract while he's cheap?
Oh, for sure.
So he's one of those guys that you could go both ways. You could either say he's a sell, you could say he's a buy. He's playing lights out right now in that full workhorse role in a good offense that's going to get a ton of points put up on the board. If you have him, try to get a first for him. If not, hold him and play him. I think that's the right process. If I can get him for like a second or maybe like a 26 second or two 26 seconds, I think I'd do it. But I think like at that point, I'm like James Conner for a second, late second, give me him instead. That's what it's always been for me. It's always why buy James Cook or Kyron Williams when I can get Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. And that's been like that. And
it's process over results. Is we have said buy those kind of guys because Tyrone Tracy, yes. Chase Brown, yes. They could win out the job. They could play well enough that next year that their stock rises, or you could invest less and get a guy that's just going to give you the same kind of production. Because let's be honest, Connor's going to put up 18 points every week. Tracy's going to maybe do 22, 6, 14. It's gonna have a lot more variance. And when you build around the wide receivers and you put yourself into that kind of position where you have the Puka Nakuas, the AJ Browns, the Garrett Wilsons, the Justin Jeffersons, that's why we preach so much to build around those wide receivers, because that's when you fill in. Snoog, I want to move to the wide receivers because the number one strength of schedule is my little darling lately. One of my favorite wide receivers of all time is DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, since coming to the Chiefs, he's wide receiver 7. All right. I know, like, he gets Buffalo, Carolina, gets Chargers, Cleveland, Houston. He has the number one strength of schedule, tied with Malik Neighbors and Cortland Sutton. I'm buying DeAndre Hopkins. If I need a cheap option, him and Cortland Sutton and Calvin Ridley, they have the best strength of schedules, and they have some boom potential. Calvin Ridley, you look at what he's done the last 3 weeks, 17, 9, 22. He's someone that's gone out there and put up 10, 5, and 5 for receptions, 2 touchdowns this past week. He had a boom week. Cortland Sutton has done the same thing. The last 3 weeks of Cortland Sutton, 84. No, I'm sorry. Got to look at this a little bit closer. Last 3 weeks, 100 yards, 122 yards, and 70 yards with a touchdown. He's had 3 straight weeks where he's been over, that threshold of what we're looking for. And Bo Nix is really starting to turn it on. So he has the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bengals in the playoffs. So I think if I can get Cortland Sutton for a pair of thirds, that's like my bottom. Give me a late second or a pair of thirds for Ridley or Sutton, and I'm gonna do it. A mid-second.
Them two or D-Hop. I'm gonna literally after this pod, I'm just gonna go through all my dynasty leagues and leagues I don't own those guys. Just send out offers with those late picks just to get some depth for the playoffs because wide receivers been tricky. I mean, like you have Nico coming off an injury. Nico could re-injure his hamstring. Like so many situations where it's just not looking pretty.
And the other guy on there is Jacoby Myers. Now, if Desmond Ridder wins the job, no thank you. But if Gardner Minshew stays there, I mean, he's got Atlanta and Jacksonville in the playoffs. What we were talking about is process over results again. Why buy Xavier Legette? Why buy, someone that's going to be a little bit more ups and downs? No pun intended with Josh Downs now with Anthony Richardson, which we'll talk about in a second. But if I can buy a guy that I know is going to put up points, that I know like DeAndre Hopkins is going to put up those points, I'm all for that. The other thing I'm trying to do is if there is a trade deadline, I'm trying to think about the next man up. I'm trying to make sure I buy Jawan Jennings for nothing because he's shown that he can flash out there. I'm trying to buy that next guy up. I think Khalil Shakir is going to be big down the stretch. I think Jamison Williams could have some big games. I throw up every time I talk about Amari Cooper now. I want him to play.
He's the type of person that out of nowhere will just be nasty. No, that's the thing with him.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you there for sure. It's been an ugly experience owning him this season. It's been very tricky. And that's what it just bothers me. Josh Downs. So let's talk. Anthony Richardson. The Colts did him wrong. They were like, okay, it's an Anthony Richardson problem. No, it's a Colts problem. All right. Joe Flacco, who's fantastic, went out there, 6 turnovers the last 2 weeks. I'm telling you, Snoog, either this week or next week, he's going to put up a 30 burger. Like, I just feel like
Richardson.
I feel like Richardson you can buy for a second right now. People are I panic bought a couple times just for fun because people were like, I don't want him, get him off my team.
Yeah, I have him in a few leagues still that I just held him because he lost a ton of value.
He lost so much value. You couldn't trade him. You know,
he just needs to run more. Like he needs to stop trying to be someone he's not. He tries to be Justin Herbert. He needs to be Jaden Daniels. Like
he needs to be Anthony Richardson and go out there and just run the damn ball.
Run the damn ball. That's what he did last year. Slide.
That's what he did week 1. And I think somebody got in his head. You know what I mean? And I think this is gonna. He's someone that I think is going to put up massive numbers at some point. I think this week or next, you're going to see a big boom, and I think we could see him.
He needs Michael Pittman to get his head out of his ass and get open underneath and operate as that bigger tight end type of player so that he can have a safety outlet. They need to make it easy for him. Like, stop making him throw the damn ball 60 yards downfield because he clearly can't hit that target consistently right now.
Right.
Maybe I think it's the shoulder injury. He has a good deep ball, and he can hit those passes, but not consistently right now. Make things easy for him. Running back screens, tight ends, wide receiver screens, slants, crossers, things like that are right in front of him that he can just hit. And
we had him week 1 looking like what he was last year. Where it was 9 for 9,
30, right?
9 for 19, super efficient with 2 touchdowns. But the biggest part was 6 carries, 56 yards, and 1 touchdown. Every other game you look at it, it's like 3 carries, 4 carries. Like, let's stop trying to turn Anthony Richardson into a pocket passer. Let's try to stop saying Anthony Richardson needs to play like this. Just let him go out and ball out. Like, dumb it down a little bit. Let's have some fun. Wide receivers, or let's move to the tight ends real quick because we're kind of getting a little bit late on time. Number 1 strength of schedule, Snoog, my boy, Cade Otton. Cade Otton has a juicy schedule. He plays Carolina twice and Dallas in the playoffs. This is your buy opportunity. He had 3 monster games in a row with 10 targets. And now people are like, oh, well, that was just a flash. No, he faced the 49ers who are really good against the tight end. He still had 8 targets. So I think he comes off the bye with the Giants, the Panthers, and the Raiders. Those 3 games, he goes up over 15 fantasy points. He's going to get you into the playoffs. Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta have juicy playoff schedules as well. I'm still not buying in on Laporta. I'm past that. But I think Travis Kelce finishes the season on a high note. 3 straight games, Snoog, of over 12 targets. Since Nuke came in, he has been really looking good. He has been, 20, 15, and 16 fantasy points without with 2 touchdowns in there. I think he goes on a tear to end the season. I think Kelce, this might be the last year of him, but I think he really comes on hard the rest of the year.
Yep. He's another one. He's on my my list for tomorrow. He has been, I think he's averaging 10.5 targets a game, 71 receiving yards a game, and he's been like the tight end 1 since 2 weeks before the bye. So the past 6 weeks. I think that was right after Rice got injured. He is unbelievable right now. If you're in like a 0.5 or 0.75 or even a full tight end premium league, buy him. I'd literally start him at flex over like anyone else. Like,
I am too. Code. I have a 0.75 where I have Bowers as my starter and Kelce as my flex, and I'm unbeatable because those guys are just putting up numbers. Mark Andrews has come on nicely. You know what I mean? Mark Andrews, since week 6, has put up 14 or more fantasy points, 12 or more fantasy points in 5 out of 6 games. The only one he didn't was Denver. He's going to be in shootouts. He's got a couple rough schedules coming up in the next couple of weeks, but the playoffs, he gets the Steelers, the Giants, and the Texans, all shootouts. I want guys tied to Lamar Jackson because it's going to be fun down the stretch. I keep saying it every week, and I'm just going to say it again today. Just people come to you and they want Brock Bowers, just say no. Friends don't let friends trade Brock Bowers because this is, he has got Jacksonville, Atlanta, New Orleans, and he is going to win you leagues as a rookie. at 21 years old. Please, if you're at 0.75, unless they're offering you Jefferson or Chase, just say no. Like, that's it. Like, just say no. You don't need to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we don't need to talk about kickers and defense. That's for sure.
No kickers and defenses on this stream.
No.
Gave those up a long time ago.
Sorry about my cough. I'm trying to keep this, as good as we can.
Sticking it out.
Snoog's going to tell you about the Discord, then we're going to close it out because I can't talk.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening to the stream. As always, we're gonna go live a lot this week. I mean, we went live yesterday, we went live today. We're planning on going live Sunday before the games. Planning on going live Saturday or Friday, one of those nights we're gonna pick, and we're gonna go live again. But that Discord is absolutely ripping. 460 plus people. Witness, yeah. There's tons of guys in this chat right now that have been talking. I know Benny's in there, Super Hot's in there. A lot of these guys. Talk to him every day. I mean, through DM, through the chats. That's the only place where you can find all of my rankings. You can get all of my advice. You can answer or get your DMs answered anytime. I don't answer Twitter DMs anymore because I put all my efforts towards the Discord. Like I said, 460 plus people in there. I wake up, I got 50 plus DMs and chats to answer. I start work, I go to the gym, I come back. It's around noon. I have another 50, and then I have another 50 before bed. So, I mean, it's so much fun in there. Rankings, roster construction, buys, sells at the dynasty position, weekly rankings for those that are in redraft and dynasty that just need start sit advice. We answer everything. Start sits, trades, everything you have. We have our own sections. Dad and I, so our work split up. So you can go to either or. You can DM us. And we have chat with Dad, chat with Snoog sections where you can just chat in there. And then there's a whole fantasy football talk, trade advice talk, where you can talk with over 450 others. People are in there answering questions for each other. So you're getting advice from tons of other DGens, not just Dad and I. So that's the place to be. $5 a month. Get in there ASAP. And
what's fun about it is you get two different analysts. If you don't like my style, you might like Snoog's style. If you don't like Snoog's, you like mine. A lot of guys like both of them, so they ask each other. And then sometimes they'll be like, well, Snoog said this. And I'm like, hey, that's his take. This is mine.
Yeah, I get that. We get that a lot. Like someone will be like, well, Dad said this and you said this. And I'm like, okay, well, I get why he says this.
Right. We align a lot, but sometimes we have different thoughts. And, a lot of you have joined our Discord from being in other Discord saying, analysts X, Y, and Z, they don't really respond. We respond to every single one. Like, I have not missed a DM this entire process. I'm going to go right after we're done here and go do this. So tomorrow or Friday, make sure you guys are on. Super Chats will be back. We're going to do live sit starts. Make sure you guys check that out. Thanks again for tuning in and enjoy the process. Woo.